Welcome to episode 9 of the Mother Gaia Birthy Pod. Today I'm joined by Sam Burgess, who shares her unique and beautiful story with us. Sam opens up about her rocky journey through pregnancy, the challenges, the ups and downs, and like me, how she found herself not exactly loving pregnancy experience. She'll take us through her thoughtful decision to choose a C-section and how she empowered herself every step of the way. This conversation is an inspiring reminder that each birth journey is unique and valid, and that taking the right choice for yourself can be the most powerful path of all. So let's dive in to Sam's story.
Hi, I'm Sam. I am mother to Jude, who was born in January 2024. And he's just my one child, and he's going to be an only child, but he is wonderful and I love him. And we live in Hove in East Sussex. And yeah, he's 8 months now, and I can't believe it. It's gone so fast.
Wow. But you know, January is the best time to be born because that's my birthday too.
Oh, is it? Is it? Are you a Capricorn as well?
I am indeed.
Oh, amazing. I don't know many Capricorns, so I'm always very keen to get to know Capricorns.
My only one thing about being born in January, because I was born right at the beginning on the 5th, is don't go, here's your Christmas and your birthday present all in one go, because it's very annoying.
I always thought it must be quite tough because I'm end of May, so I'm like halfway through the year. So as a kid, I loved it because it meant that what I didn't get for Christmas, I had sort of nearly 6 months, and then it was time for another present. So we've already said that Jude's going to have a summer birthday, like he's going to have 2 birthdays like the Queen did. So he's got one in the summer so that we can have like an outdoor party. So we're going to have family in January, and then we're going to do him like a half birthday in the summer, so we can have things like a bouncy castle and stuff, which I got to have for my birthday, but my partner's February, and he said it was always a very cold, drafty birthday.
See, I was never, it's only been as an adult I've worked out why it happened, because obviously beginning of January, you get paid before Christmas.
Yeah.
And then you don't get another pay until about 3 weeks after my birthday. So as an adult, I've even realised this when you're going, it's my birthday, let's go out for the weekend. And everyone's going, we can't, we're skint.
And it's by January as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's tough. It's really tough. So I thought we'll do something. You should have a summer birthday. Be the queen.
Yeah, well, I just run away now. I've started off a new tradition. I go to Spain for the weekend.
That sounds even better. I love that.
Brilliant. So obviously 8-month-old, you're still in the trenches a bit.
Very much.
How are you feeling?
Do you know what? We've had ups and downs and peaks and troughs, and it's definitely been one hell of a learning curve. And I already feel really stupid for all the things that I said before I had a baby, of all the things I wouldn't do. Like, I'm not going to be that kind of mum. I'm not going to do that. Yes, admittedly, I have whipped out colour blocks on my phone in a restaurant to try and calm him down, because his love of red is just through the roof. She gets more smiles than anybody else. So sometimes you have to do the things that you said you would never do, and you understand finally while parents do the things that they do. The regressions have been really tough. We're now in another regression at 8 months, and that's been really challenging. So he's been a really good sleeper, and now he wakes up in the middle of the night and thinks it's time to play, and we bring him into bed in the hope that he would sleep, which he used to do if he was ever having a night where he didn't want to sleep. And now he just slaps you around the face until you open your eyes and acknowledge him. So we're having a bit of a challenging time at the moment. Teething was fun as well.
Yeah. When you get teething on top of regression, that's a fun one.
Yeah. We had that at 4 months. My partner works night shifts only a couple of times a year for his job, and both big regressions have fallen during his night shift week.
Wasn't he lucky?
So he's on nights this week, and we're in the middle of another regression. I'm like, I swear you've planned this.
I was going to say, has he actually looked into this and knows when they are?
I know. He's doing them again in November, because he missed ones in January when he was on paternity leave. And I was like, oh, great. So what regression is coming in November? Because it's almost guaranteed.
Absolutely. Oh dear. So we did have a bit of a chat before we started recording, and like I said, I had a little look over like your Instagram and things like that. So without me giving it away and what have you, I did see the interesting way that you found out that you were pregnant. So do you want to
give us that? So I found out I was pregnant through my Aura Ring, which is a tracking device, a fitness tracker, and it monitors your heart rate, all of that kind of stuff, but it also monitors your body temperature. And I have it linked to natural cycles, which, if anybody's ever used natural cycles or the whole trying to conceive thing, you use the thermometer to take your temperature. Well, this means you don't have to take your temperature first thing in the morning before you've eaten or drunk anything. This will take your temperature throughout the night, and then it kind of tracks your lowest temperature, and then it helps track your menstrual cycle. So yeah, I found out that I was pregnant through my Aura Ring, and my Aura Ring had basically told me that my temperature was going up and up and up and up and up and not coming down, and my heart rate was going up and up and up and up and up as well. And it was basically saying to me it thought I was getting sick, because that's what it automatically assumed. It was like, Sam, you really need to slow down. You're probably getting sick. And it literally, my temperature started going up. Obviously, when you ovulate, your temperature goes up anyway, but it like really shot up literally as soon as I'd conceived. So as soon as it had implanted, my temperature really went up. And when I say really up, I'm not talking like what you would get on a temperature if you had if you were ill and you were taking your temperature. We're talking like 0.6 of a degree, but it had gone up to like 0.8 of a degree and it stayed up. And yeah, then I started to think maybe I'm pregnant, because basically I Googled it and I looked at other people who deliberately used an Aura Ring and natural cycles to conceive. And then I took their chart and my chart and put them side by side and was like, holy shit. I'm either about to go down with like the mother of all flus, or I'm actually pregnant. So it was the day of the coronation, and I always remember the coronation because of it. And I had woken up in the morning. The previous day I'd been in yoga, and I had got this like sharp pain in my stomach on one side. And I remember just being sat there, and I remember it so vividly. I was sat cross-legged. I don't know what pose we were going into or just come out of, and I got this sharp pain, and I remember just this feeling of I'm pregnant. Just, it was the weirdest thing. Like, why would I suddenly think that? Because I'll be honest, we weren't trying to conceive. We were being fast and loose with contraceptives to see what might happen, because I've got endometriosis and only one functioning ovary, and was told I only had 25% chance of conceiving anyway. So contraception wasn't really something we felt we needed to really care too much about, and we thought it was going to take us ages to get pregnant. But without going off piste, it was a weird thing for me to think in the moment that I was pregnant. So it was the day of the coronation, which was the next day, and nowhere was open. It was like 7 o'clock in the morning. My partner is a detective in the Metropolitan Police. He was working the coronation up in London. He was already there. And I needed a pregnancy test. So I realized nothing was open because it was the coronation and it was very early. So I used one of those like food delivery fast services, like Get Here or something, because it was the only place that had a pregnancy test. Paid ridiculous amount of money for a pregnancy test, but I was like, I need it, and I need it now. I need to know now. I need to know now. Very impatient. And this delivery driver turned up, and he obviously knew what the delivery was, and it was just wrapped in a little paper bag, and it'd come from like Morrison's or something. And I opened the door, and he just went, "Good luck."
Oh.
He obviously didn't know which way I wanted it to go, so he was just sort of
that's
like,
probably the best thing to say, isn't it? It's like, I don't know which way you want this, but have the best of luck.
and I was like, thanks, and I snatched it out of his hand and I ran off to the bathroom. And then it was a digital one, and it came up immediately saying pregnant 1 to 2 weeks, and I just sort of sat there like, whoa. And then tried to call my partner, and I rung him like 15 times, and he was in a briefing for the coronation, so he couldn't answer the phone. And he said when he'd seen all my missed calls, he really thought it was going to be bad news. He didn't think anything like I was going to call him and tell him I was pregnant. He thought it's got to be something awful, like, is it the dog? Because we've got an old dog, and he was worried that maybe something had happened to the dog, or was it going to be like, someone's passed away or something like that. He did not think for 1 second, and I didn't even take a breath to blurt it out either. He was just like, "Hey, you're right." I was like, "Where are you?" And he was like, "I've just come out of a briefing, everything, I'm pregnant." And he was like, "Sorry, what?"
Hello.
And he said he just was stood there just like, I'm sorry, what did you say?" I said, "You know what I said." And he said, seriously? He's like, oh my God, I thought you were calling with some like bad news.
Can we have this phone call again in 5 minutes?
Yeah. And then you see all these lovely reveals on Instagram and stuff when people go to all these elaborate, you know, to announce their pregnancy.
Oh,
I just blurted it out.
No.
I couldn't hold it in.
No. I can wait to tell like other people, but like not my partner. I mean,
No.
my third time round, he had the pregnancy stick thrown at his face and went, "You've done it to me again."
I think he was in quite a lot of shock, to be fair. I don't know how he got through the rest of the day. He said he just kind of had to put it to one side because it was like it was going to be a long day, and it was like, I can't even process this right now, but thanks. It's like I should have waited till the end of his day, but I was so like gobsmacked.
Yeah. Oh, cool. So how was your pregnancy then? Was it fairly straightforward or?
There's a reason Jude's going to be an only child, and that's because I found pregnancy so hard.
Yeah.
It's
not angels of the night, as a lot of people tell you.
No, there was no glowing. I can tell you that now. It was really, really, really tough. I was super, super active before pregnancy. I did yoga, Pilates, swimming. I was a very avid yogi. And I always thought this would put me in a really good position for a really healthy pregnancy. And I was just plagued from the beginning, and not with the symptoms like that you know about. So like everybody knows about, like morning sickness. It wasn't like that. For me, my first trimester was nausea, but no, I would think I was sick once. Horrific bloating, which meant I couldn't wear any waistbands at all. And if I did, it would make me gag. It was awful. But I had migraines, horrendous migraines. They started at week 8 and they didn't stop until week 15. I actually looked over my pregnancy like notes that I'd made, and the migraines would put me in bed. They were horrendous. And I'd suffered with migraines in the past, normally when I'm on the contraceptive pill, which I'd stopped taking decades ago because of that. So to have these migraines again were horrendous. And then when the migraines finished, I had like a week where I felt okay. And then I had pelvic girdle pain, which just progressively got worse for the rest of my pregnancy. Yeah. We moved house while I was pregnant as well, and I could barely walk. I was in so much pain. And pelvic girdle pain is just like something I have never experienced before in my life. I had very little in the way of help from like the NHS and doctors and stuff. They were a bit like, suck it up.
It's a thing. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You'll be fine. And I saw an osteopath for a lot of my pregnancy, which was absolutely invaluable. Cost me an arm and a leg, but it was the best thing I did. But even she said, I can't fix it.
Yeah.
I can help with the discomfort now, and it'll give you like a few days relief, but I can't fix it. The only way it's going to get fixed is having your baby, and you've got X amount of weeks to go.
Yeah. I mean, I've just been talking to one of my doula clients this week who's got exactly the same thing. And I'm like, look, I can help you sling your bump up to move the weight around somewhere else. I can do extra massages with you. We can do counter pressure with you. I can show you all these other poses to do, but I can't get rid of it.
No. Yeah. And then I got pelvic symphysis pain in like the very last few weeks. So it just felt like the front of my fanny was going to snap. It was just awful.
Yeah.
It's really not fun. The only thing I did find that really helped, which is what I do recommend to people who also have it, is I had a spiky massage ball, a hard one, not like a squidgy one, like a hard one. And I used to press it into my bum cheek and lean against the wall. The pain in the moment is so intense, but the relief afterwards, you're not going to get very long, maybe a couple of hours, but it's so worth it. And that was the only thing that worked for me, because you can't really take any painkillers either. Like paracetamol doesn't touch the sides.
No, not really.
It's a waste.
It looks nice. Yeah.
But
there's a specific tendon that runs along that bit, which you're obviously triggering, that'll help alleviate it and everything. I think I might have a little infographic about it, so I'll put it in the description for this, so anybody needs to have a look at exactly what you mean there, they'll be able to see it.
For some, it just worked. I just press it right into my bum, lean against the wall, so all my weight was on it, and the tears would be in my eyes. But it would just work. It was
Yeah.
so good. So yes, anybody suffering, go do that.
Yeah. So do you think that a lot of it, particularly like the migraines and things like that, were probably exacerbated because you had endometriosis? Have you looked into that? It's something I've only come across recently.
I think it's more to do with the hormones rather than the endometriosis. So the pelvic girdle pain could potentially have been some of the endometriosis. So in the August of 2023, I had surgery for all my endometriosis, and I had it quite badly in my pelvis. So there is a chance that some of that may have been related. The migraines, I think I'm just very, very sensitive to progesterone. And I had pretty much all the same symptoms in my first trimester when the progesterone is obviously building that I do when I'm on the contraceptive pill, like literally all of the same things. So the bloating, the tummy and digestive troubles, the very, very painful breasts, the migraines, they were all a bad skin, greasy hair. All of those are exactly the same symptoms I've had on the contraceptive pill. So it's clearly my body's just a bit too sensitive to progesterone. I think it was more that.
I mean, obviously not to say that your experience is wrong. It's just obviously there's something that I've seen literally in the last 48 hours that was saying that they're looking more into the effects of endometriosis, and particularly with contraceptives, hormonal things, HRT and pregnancy, and that it does have a negative effect and actually makes all these sort of things that you were saying, so that the pain can seem worse, you get headaches, migraines, the bloating, all that kind of stuff actually can be exacerbated simply because, I say simply, but because of the endometriosis and the hormonal changes actually affecting the endo and making everything in your body much worse.
Well, my periods have been significantly worse after pregnancy as well, so it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, the bloating was off the charts. Like I literally looked far, far, far more pregnant than I was because I was just so bloated. Like I was out of my jeans by the time I went to my first maternity appointment, which was 6 weeks. I could not get my jeans done up at all. I had such a stomach. Which everyone was like, well, that's so weird. Like, why have you got a bump? And I'm like, well, it's not baby. I don't know what it is though. But I can't do my jeans up.
Oh, and then you kind of get to that point where you're like, especially if you've got maternity support and things like that, who are all going, oh, well, that's not normal. And you're going, well, what is normal? And do I need to do something about this? And they're going, oh, well, we don't know.
Well, I bought maternity leggings because I needed that bigger waistband because I couldn't stand any waistbands because it would just make me feel sick. So I needed things that would come like right up to my boobs. So I had like maternity leggings from really early on. I mean, obviously I didn't fill them out, but it was nice to have something loose in that general area. Or I just wore dresses throughout the summer because I just couldn't stand waistbands. It just
or you know, summer and pregnancy is just not nice anyway. You know?
It's not it was not nice. I didn't enjoy it. And having the migraines as well, and then the heat, it was just it was too much.
Absolutely. I mean, I've suffered from migraines, not thankfully not that often, but I do remember I had a really bad one with one of my pregnancies, and it floored me for about 3 days. And it was one of the really nasty, like, we're having 30 degrees heat and I was like, oh no.
It's so unpleasant. I just remember just lying in bed and my partner bringing me like ice packs because I felt horrendous. Like it was like more than a migraine. I felt really sick with it. I just couldn't stop sweating, but then I was cold. And I just kept thinking, when is this going to stop? Because this has been going on forever.
Well, thankfully it did stop.
It did,
There is light at the end of the tunnel.
There is.
So this has brought us up to what sort of 16 weeks pregnant you were, maybe-ish?
So I think the migraine stopped at 15 weeks, and then from 16 weeks onwards I had pelvic girdle pain, which was my main thing that plagued me. I also became very, very anemic during my pregnancy, which wasn't actually identified till quite late. My heart rate had really rocketed, and I was very aware. Like I tried to drop off to sleep at night, and all I could hear was my heart like thumping away in my ears. And I did go to my midwife and to the doctors, and I wasn't really getting anywhere. So I ended up presenting myself at the MAU of my local hospital and was like, I'm not leaving until someone gets to the bottom of this, because I just don't think this is normal. My heart rate is shooting up to well over 100 beats per minute at rest. Like, it was, I think at one point I was sat in the bath and it was like 140 something. And I was like, this is not healthy.
That's not good. Yeah.
No. So they ran a load of blood tests and said, oh, you're fine, your iron's fine. And then they found out that my ferritin stores were very low, like extremely low, like almost completely empty. So I had 2 Ferinject IVs, which sorted it out. My heart rate went back to normal within like a week or so, which was incredible. But yeah, I was just super anemic. She said you could eat a whole cow and it wouldn't make any difference to your iron stores. Now we need to do something about this. And at that point, I think I was nearly 30 weeks when they identified that I was that severely anemic. And at that point, I knew I was going to be having a C-section. So it was even more important that we sorted out my blood stores, iron stores.
yeah, definitely. That's not good, having a low iron store and then going for a blooming C-section.
Major abdominal surgery. No,
thanks. Did you get any really bad side effects then, or was it just the high heart rate and things like that?
The really high heart rate was the predominant side effect. I can't think of anything else that I'd really noticed. Like, no one had said I was particularly pale or anything like that. I just my heart rate was really high. And they did send me for like a echocardiogram and everything, because they noticed I had a slight arrhythmia, but apparently that's quite normal in pregnancy. A lot of women develop a slight arrhythmia and it's nothing to be concerned about. So I did go and have like an echocardiogram and stuff, and I had an ECG and all of that, and they were all normal. So the Ferinject seemed to fix it and my heart rate came down. And I think I was probably already fairly anemic before pregnancy, but they don't test your ferritin, and it was the ferritin.
Ferritin, that's No,
but with
absolutely.
the endo, my periods were very heavy, so I was obviously bleeding a lot. I'd had surgery not that long ago as well. So I think I'd gone in with a depleted store, and then baby had just
I love that, thanks.
And left me just running on nothing.
I just want to sort of expand on that a little bit, so anybody who's kind of like listening in or anything like that as well. Obviously there's lots of other things, like you've already suggested, sort of like pasty looking. You can sometimes be clammy and cold to the touch and things like that, but I got it in between 2 of my pregnancies and I was really bad. I actually had to have 3 blood transfusions before it sorted mine out. I got to the point where I was seeing things, I was hearing things, and my vision was like, when it on an old TV screen, that kind of it fizzes round the sides.
I did get that. I just thought it was a pregnancy thing.
No, it's an iron thing. So if you get into that point, you need to go and get checked out.
Definitely. And if I would just say as well, just push for ferritin, because they don't check your ferritin levels. Like, it took me to have a whole load of blood tests for them to eventually do my ferritin. They'd done my thyroid and everything before they even did my ferritin. So it's something that's not routinely checked. It is worth asking for your ferritin levels to be checked, because
it probably should be. It should really be on the routine, especially if you're pregnant, because it's one of the first things that goes.
My hemoglobin was fine. It was low, but it wasn't like low. It was low as in, oh, you're pregnant, your baby's using quite a lot of that, but my actual stores were practically empty.
Absolutely. So you mentioned that you were going to go in for a C-section. So how did that come about? What's going on there?
So at 14 weeks, I had a bleed, and it was quite a bad bleed, and ended up in A&E, and they couldn't work out what the cause of the bleeding was. So they checked my cervix and everything, said everything looked fine. So it had to be coming internally, which meant it was most likely coming from the placenta. So at that point, they'd already said, we're pretty sure you've got a low placenta, but it will be confirmed at your 20-week scan. So you just need to take it easy between now and then. So I kind of, at 14 weeks, it was like, right, okay, I've got a low placenta. At the 12-week scan, they'd already identified that it was anterior. So it was already at the front, but at 20 weeks, it was confirmed that I had placenta previa and that it was low and at the front, which made scans also quite tricky. Because you've got something in the way. It made movement quite tricky for me to feel. I didn't really feel anything till quite late on. I would feel a little bit, but I have no comparison, so I can't tell like how strong they should have been, but they weren't like, I never had like noticeable, like you could see like feet and whatnot, not until the very, very end.
I think yourself lucky, because it's actually not as nice as people make out.
No, true. I used to get more like feel more at the back than I would at the front, and I used to get them at the side, but like when people would put their hands on my tummy and go, is he gonna kick? And I'd be like, well, he might be, but I don't think you'll feel it. You won't feel it. I'll feel it if it's in the bladder or something. Or a rib. He used to love kicking me in the ribs. Oh god, don't miss that.
No.
so painful. I
think you're the first person that I've spoken to who, whenever we're talking about pregnancy and birth and what have you, has got the same idea as me, is I hated being pregnant.
I really hated being pregnant, and I feel awful saying it, because some people like love it, and some people say, you know, it's always these things, it's always followed up with, oh, but I'm so blessed that I could fall pregnant, I love my child. It's like, we shouldn't feel we need to caveat, you know, I love my child, but it's like, I hated being pregnant. I really didn't enjoy it. And if we were to expand our family, it won't be via my uterus, because I just can't put myself through it again. And maybe that makes me very selfish, but it was just really unpleasant. And I felt so ill throughout my whole pregnancy. And I have had, unfortunately, some like lasting effects from my pregnancy. They're currently looking to see whether I've got rheumatoid arthritis, which may have been triggered by the hormonal shift, because I've just got chronic joint pain. I
could write all this, because I can't barely move my hands at the minute. Like, honestly,
it's horrendous. And these are things you just don't know that may or may not happen. And I have to say, you know, for anyone listening, it is really rare for you to develop something like rheumatoid arthritis off the back of pregnancy. But it's more likely that, this is what my rheumatologist said to me anyway, it would have been some kind of shift. So you could have just had a really bad cold, and that would have given an opportunity for it to get in. Menopause would probably have given it an opportunity to get in. It just happens to have been pregnancy. Pregnancy didn't cause rheumatoid arthritis. It gave the disease an opportunity. Exactly. So
and I think, especially with the way that me and you have experienced things as well, with having low ferritin levels and things like that, that also could have helped set it off. And to be honest with you, I'd already had issues previously to getting pregnant, just not to the extent that I am now. So it's not a case of, oh my god, I'm trying to tell everybody not to get pregnant, it's the worst thing in the world. But you've got to be aware. I think I said to you in my email, you've got to know the dark side to know the light side. You know, you've got to know both sides of the coin to be able to make an informed decision, and that's the whole point of this podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. And pregnancy really isn't as it's depicted on Instagram. And I think, you know, some people will have amazing pregnancies. You know, I've got friends who said to me, oh, you'll really miss being pregnant. You'll really miss your bum. Well, when they're out, you'll really wish they were back inside. I've never experienced any of that. And I kept saying, no, I really won't miss being pregnant. You don't seem to understand. I really won't. I can barely walk. I feel like my pelvis is going to snap in two. I don't know why I would miss this. I'm sorry.
No, the only time I ever glowed was after I'd been sick, and it was only because I was sweating. It's like, it's not the same thing.
I definitely had the glow towards the end, and that was just because I was like a furnace. Everything. My poor partner, I used to have the windows open. Obviously, I gave birth early January. In December, I was making us have the bedroom windows open. He was sleeping in like joggers and like a sweatshirt, and he was like, "Are you trying to freeze us to death?" Meanwhile, I'm starfish and just my knickers on top of the bed, just like, it's so hot.
I'm still like that now. I've got really into having an ice pod bath on a night. Like I literally go outside for 10-15 minutes into an ice bucket on my decking out the back, just so that I can get cool enough to go to bed.
You're just running hot.
Yeah, constantly. It's great.
To be fair, I've stayed running relatively hot since I gave birth. It was only a few weeks ago that my partner said to me, "Oh my god, your hands are cold," and I was like, yeah. And he went, "I haven't felt you have cold hands in God knows how long." And I was such a cold person before, like always freezing cold feet, freezing cold hands. And then throughout pregnancy, my hands were like, people would say it felt like they were going to burn them. They were so hot when I touched them. And I was just like,
I had the whole, can I fry an egg on your bump thing? Yeah.
It's crazy how warm you get. It's nuts.
Absolutely. So run us through your C-section, sort of like what they've said to you.
Yeah.
Because obviously with a low lying placenta, it's kind of like, well, your exit is blocked, my love.
It's blocked. Yeah. So at 20 weeks, they said to me, right, so at the moment it's blocked. However, like something like 95% or something by week 36, the placenta will have pulled up and away. With an anterior low placenta, it's slightly less common, but it's still very, 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 very high percentage. Like, don't even worry about C-section. It's not something you need to think about. So at that point, I was still thinking, okay, I might not need a C-section, but we'll wait and see. Then you have more scans when you've got a low placenta. And because I had a fast heart rate as well, and I had some other kind of symptoms in my pregnancy, they became a bit worried about. So after my pharyngex, I got really bad water retention, like really bad water retention. I was huge, very uncomfortable as well. And they were concerned with my 32-week scan. They were then concerned that I had excess fluid around the baby and the placenta. So they were concerned that I had polyhydramnios. Is that correct? Is that the right term?
Sounds right.
Yeah, polyhydramnios.
I'll correct it if it's wrong. No worry.
It basically means you've got too much amniotic fluid. Baby's peeing too much. So therefore, then they were like, right, we need to do more checks for gestational diabetes. I'd already had the test done once. They did it a further 2 times. I did the glucose test.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It was disgusting. And then they did a blood test as well, because I think after 36 weeks, it's no longer reliable. So then they do another blood test.
Not really that reliable to start off with, but
oh my god, yeah. I kept passing it anyway. Yeah. I kept absolutely sailing through, not even slightly diabetic. Yeah. So they were like, oh, it's not that. Oh, but you excess fluid. Oh, another scan. So I'd have another scan. Oh no, you haven't got excess fluid. I was like, oh, for God's sake.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So there was a lot of things going on. My blood pressure was borderline constantly. I'd had all these headaches and everything as well. So there was a lot of concern that maybe preeclampsia was kind of coming towards me. So there was a lot of monitoring going on. I seemed to feel like every single appointment I went to, I was diagnosed with something else. It was starting to drive us a bit crazy. It was almost like a tick list of all the things you could get in pregnancy, and I was going in and they're going, could be this one. I was like, I'm going to have a full bingo card.
We're going to do it alphabetically. So yeah.
I mean, it was great that they were keeping an eye on stuff, but it was making me very nervous going to each appointment, thinking, I wonder what I'm going to come away with. So yeah, I had a scan at 20 weeks and I had a scan at 32 weeks, still hadn't moved. Had another scan at 36 weeks and it had cleared the margin by 1 millimeter.
Well, I mean, that's not very much, is it?
Yeah, you're all good to have a vaginal delivery. And I was like, it's 1 millimeter.
And also the scans aren't always that right, and when they can't even estimate a child's weight by 30% in either direction, how on earth can you be so well, 1 mil?
And they were telling me that his head was like 100% on the percentile scale, and that he had this giant head and a giant stomach, and he was just a giant baby, massive baby that was going to come out with 1 millimeter clearance on the placenta. I was like, right. And they were like, oh, but you can't have your home birth, because I'd wanted a home birth. And they were like, you can't have a home birth. You've got a catalogue of complications that we need to monitor you for, so it will have to be a hospital birth. And I was like, I can't even go to a birth centre. No. Hospital birth, consultant led. And I was like, no, I don't like that. And the reason I don't like that is because the intervention level is really high. And I just had this gut feel that they were going to be like, induction, drug you up to the eyeballs, yank baby out of you. And I was just like, I just am not very keen on this. Mm-hmm. So at 36 and a half weeks, I had about 36 and a half weeks, I had an appointment with a consultant to discuss C-section. And he said, oh, but we don't need to have this appointment anymore because you've got 1 millimeter clearance. And I said, yeah, I've decided I'd like to. He was like, well, that makes it elective. And I said, yep, that's fine. He's like, are you sure? And I was like, yes, I'm sure. And he was like, okay, fine. We'll book you in. And there was no like toing and froing, none of this like, oh, but it's not no longer medically necessary. It was just like, okay, we'll book you in. So they booked me in for 39 plus 4. because they don't do C-sections on weekends that are elective. And I was like, that's fine. And obviously Christmas and everything as well. So I was booked in for the 8th of January, and my C-section was on the 8th of January.
Nice.
Yeah. So it was actually ended up being quite smooth in the end. And I felt so relieved when it was booked in. And looking back, having had a C-section, I can look back and think, C-section was not very easy. It's definitely not the easy way out.
No.
Should I have gone for a vaginal delivery? Maybe not. But in my C-section, my placenta wouldn't detach. I had a giant placenta with an extra lobe. I know. I agree with that myself. I know, it was freaking enormous. And they did say, even the midwife, like, they were like, whoa, this is big. This is a big placenta, and it had its whole extra lobe. It wouldn't detach, and I lost quite a lot of blood during the C-section because they were like trying to get it detached. So they'd actually said to my partner, really glad that she had a C-section, because had I not had a C-section, I would almost definitely needed surgery to remove the placenta. So
I mean,
it worked out.
Even if it wasn't for that, you've been given a really rough ride.
Yeah.
And that was just baby giving you a rough ride.
Yeah.
Then you've been given, oh, well, it could be this, it could be that, it could be pre-eclampsia, you've got this in the way, you've got that, this and that, blah, 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 blah. At every single appointment.
Yep.
Those appointments have given you more appointments with more blah, 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 blah,
so many appointments.
You didn't have a crystal ball.
Nope.
So you couldn't go, all right, then, magic 8 ball. If I do this, will I be okay? If I do this, will I be okay? If I do this, will I be okay? What's the best option for me? You had the information that you were given at the time, and you made a decision that felt comfortable for you at the time. And the fact that, like you just said, a weight was lifted and you felt so relieved once it was booked in, that to me says that was the right decision for you.
Yeah, it definitely was. Like, we moved house at the end of September as well. So I'd had a lot going on that year in addition to all of that. And in my last trimester, I was literally at the hospital every week and some weeks it was more than one appointment. So I might have my midwife appointment, then I'd be going for a scan on a different day, and then I'd be going to see somebody else about my heart on another day. Then it'd be, oh, can you come in for another blood test? And I could have just moved into the hospital, honestly. From like 34 weeks, I should have just stayed, because I was going backwards and forwards constantly. When it was booked in, I no longer felt any anxiety. It's like the appointments all just kind of came to an end. It was like, oh, well, your midwife doesn't need to see you now until after you've given birth. We'll just cancel your appointment. It's like, oh, well, we don't need to take this any further. Well, we'll cancel that blood test. And it was just... I now know what's going to happen. So we had Christmas, and I knew on the 8th of January I was going to be having a baby.
Thank you so much for joining us on this episode, and a huge thank you to Sam for sharing her story with such honesty and warmth. If you'd like to hear more from Sam, including a deeper chat about her C-section experience and her recovery journey, I've got an extended version over on my Buy Me a Coffee members area. Check it out. Sam also runs Millennial Mum, a fantastic blog and Substack where she recently featured an interview with me. Links to both her Substack and her Instagram are available in the show notes below, so do give them a look. And don't miss next week's episode with Justine Leach. She'll be sharing insights on trauma-informed birth and her own experience with trauma that inspired her journey to supporting other women. It's a powerful and compassionate conversation you don't want to miss. Thanks again for listening, and I'll see you next time on the Mother Gaia Birthy Pod.